Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to another episode of Open for Discussion. I'm your boy, C. Maurice Ball. And today we are speaking with a designer, an actress, a model, a CEO, a author. This amazing young lady is doing crazy things out here in this world, and she is out here setting it on fire and making a change and making a difference and standing on what she believes in. And so, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kick this intro, and then we'll be right back with our special guest. Let's ride. Kick that intro. Well, well, well.
Hello.
Guess what, y'all? We have Miss Jasmine Major in the building. And let me tell y'all a little story of how this interview came to pass. She popped up in my timeline on TikTok, and I sent her a message, and we kind of chatted. She was like, "Hey, yeah, send me your information, and I'll get back to you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then one day, I mistakenly butt dialed her through Instagram, and it just called her, and I didn't have no idea that I even called her. And so I get a message like, "Hey, you called me through Instagram." And I was like, "Yo, my bad, like that's creepy. What? Yeah, I don't know you like that, like to be calling you out on Instagram." And so from there, we just kind of started dialoguing, going back and forth. And then she was gracious enough to say, "Hey, I think I want to sit down with you for a second." So here's how we landed here. And I am grateful that she's taken time out of her busy day from being a model, an actress, a clothing designer, a CEO, a author. Like she got a lot of stuff going on, and she is spinning a lot of plates. And she has taken time to just hang out with me. So I am grateful. So Miss Jasmine, how are you today?
I am well. I'm blessed. Thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate this time today.
Well, awesome. Awesome. So for those who don't know you, you're somewhere in the world, right? You know, like last time I think I told you was on the West Coast and getting ready to travel out of the country, I believe. And now you are currently where?
I'm in Pennsylvania right now.
She is in Pennsylvania, just chilling in the cut in with Philly.
Close enough. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
close enough to
Close
Philly.
to Philly. Yeah.
Okay, I like the East Coast. I have an uncle that lives in Philly. So in your everyday life,
hmm
and how busy are you? What's a normal day look like from you when you get up to the time that you close your eyes? What's a normal day look like?
Honestly, my question would be like, what's normal?
Well, true, true,
I
true, because
don't
that's
really
relative,
have
right?
normal days. I mean, I work out, 4 to 5 times a week. On a good week, 3 to 4 on a regular week. That's usually the first thing in my schedule is to go to the gym. And then I usually have a sales meeting during the weekdays, 2 full-time jobs, plus my company, and then my aspiring career as an actress and model. I guess I technically shouldn't say aspiring since I am a paid actress. um, yeah, castings, auditions. Today I had a casting, so that was my schedule today. So typical, went to the gym. I did a class and a half, and then I had to hightail it out of there, go to a runway casting, got booked for that. So I'm already booked for Fashion Week in September. And then I came straight here. And then after this session, I will probably live stream for a short bit, and then I will jump straight into my hospital work. That's a typical day.
Wow. and and that's all on pure energy, right? no
Yeah.
energy drinks, no
Nope.
no
No
help or
coffee.
anything.
Nope.
Oh, just straight get up and get at it.
Yeah, I do drink matcha though. It's got a good
Well,
source of green tea caffeine. Yeah.
match. Oh, so green tea, caffeine.
I will drink
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay. That is that sounds pretty exhausting.
Well, I would say it would be exhausting if it was filled with, like, activities that I didn't actually wanna do.
For
But
sure.
I love Gina and Lamont, they're the directors of Atlantic City Fashion Week, so I was very excited to see them today, and then the model captains were there, of course, that was just a happy greeting. I enjoy working out, not always during the workouts, but, afterwards, I enjoy feeling the burn and knowing I actually did something, and I love patient care. Sometimes the days at the hospital are pretty boring, but I also work with the hospital in different capacities, so it can be very fun. So it does I'm tired at the end of the day, but when it's happening, I'm like, "Oh, nah, okay, going here, going here, going here." That's pretty much how I function. Yeah.
Were you like that as a child?
Oh, yeah. 100%. I was diagnosed with ADHD, what, 3 times. My parents put me in 2 sports every season. I was always very, very active. If I wasn't playing in the yard or reading a book, I was doing homework or, on a sports team or something of the sort. So, yeah, very active.
Okay, so you said diagnosed with ADHD as a child. How did that play in your childhood? Was you medicated? Like that's a big thing. Like a lot of people don't. Um, it's kind of taboo. Was taboo years ago, but how do
Mhm.
you? How do you? What would you say to somebody right now, or how was your childhood, knowing that you were diagnosed but you wasn't medicated? Was it provisions made for you or anything like that, or did your parents just say, you just got to deal with it"?
Well, my parents don't really, believe in ADHD diagnoses, so I
Right.
wasn't, like, officially diagnosed until college when, I was able to receive a diagnosis myself. Up until then, they just kept me active. I mean, I went to a very intense school program when I was in elementary, middle school, and so that kept me pretty busy, and then it wasn't like today where kids kinda just go to their rooms and play video games, like, I was outside, we were outside till the streetlights went down, you guys know, I
Right.
mean, it's funny you say these things and the newer generations, they're like, "What are you talking about? Streetlights going out?" Like, yeah, that was our timing system, you guys, just like VHS tapes and, actual CDs. Right, yeah, so they just kept me busy, that's why I did 2 sports every season, um just always, always doing something. When I got diagnosed in college, again, nothing really happened, but it was okay because I'd already learned a lot of the coping mechanisms from when I was younger,
Uh-huh.
and I, played sports, so I played D1 sports, and then I was also a science scholar, so I had science competitions, I had, track and field competitions, I played tennis, leisurely. I also worked off campus and on campus. So I was very busy in college too. And then I didn't start receiving accommodations until grad school. Grad
Okay.
school dean was almost insisted. He said, "There's no way you're going to be able to sit down and study to the right caliber.
Uh-huh.
You're not able to sit down and focus." And so that's when I started getting a time and a half. I did attempt medication for a short bit. It pretty much destroyed my GI tract, so I do not medicate anymore except for holistically. So there are a lot of, nutritional changes that I have learned and have made in order to cope with that, and that's what I do a lot now with my consulting company. I speak to a lot of parents and I tell them, "Well, did have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried music theory, or have you, worked with their schedule? Have you made sure you've taken the colored dyes out of have you added in rhodiola or added in, cacao and things like goji berry, things that actually help with the cognition." And
Hmm.
I study a lot of that to really help with the symptoms and things holistically.
I mean, that's amazing. And I think because it's a lack of knowledge and um, you're not understanding how to approach it. So
Mhm.
my son was diagnosed with ADHD, but he was diagnosed on the intuitive side. So it wasn't that he was hyperactive; it was
Mhm.
just that his mind would be in 18 different places,
Yeah.
and it was like a spinning wheel. And one
Uh-huh.
day, it's kind of like um, he would be watching TV, and he would just kind of go at the pace of how his mind was going.
Mhm.
So we never watched anything fully, and it was
Wet
frustrating. I'm
sauce,
just
no.
like, boy, if you don't stop on one show, but that's the way he said his brain works. So once he got
Yeah.
diagnosed, we had a black doctor, and she was a friend of ours, and she was like, "Hey, I might want to take a look at this new medication. It's called Vyvanse,"
Mhm.
and um, we were anti medication because seeing how uh, how kids that I worked with handled it, it made them, they lost their personality, it stripped them down, made them real lethargic and real just kind of like, it just made them like zombies.
Mhm.
And we didn't want that. So we went with the Vyvanse, and it was a really, really like 10 milligram dose to something just kind of help him
Small.
get his thing together. So I definitely understand it. He wasn't the hyper kid that was just all over the place. He just couldn't focus,
Mhm.
and so he ended up doing that. So what two sports you said? I heard you say tennis. You said track.
Mhm.
What else did you?
Oh.
Are you a
Uh,
hooper too?
I played basketball in elementary school, and
Okay.
I played co-ed basketball when I was in, med school, and then I played softball, field hockey, I dabbled in lacrosse for a little bit, but I'm not gonna lie, this whole thing, I don't like all that, so I stuck with field hockey. They made me the goalie because nobody else wanted to be hit by the ball, so, I went from wearing the cute little field hockey outfits to the, "Oh," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Man, come on now." But at least I got to wear it during the day with my teammates, and, paid co-ed kickball. I've done dabbled in a little bit of martial arts, but I've done I was junior pro tennis circuit, and then I ran D1 and I ran elite track and field after college.
So you were a D1. Was you scholarshiped?
Yes, I was actually an Olympic recruit when I went to college. So it was me and another girl, Jessica Young, and she actually runs for the USA team now. We were both Olympic recruits, so we were the only two sprinters on a full ride. And we went in, we competed. It was kind of cool though, because we got to travel to all of these different track meets that our teammates didn't get to go to. The coach would just take us because we would qualify. And I ended up not continuing my track career because my dad actually passed away the night before my race to qualify
Mm.
for the junior Olympic team. And so I flew home instead of competing, and competed a couple times after that, but just never went back to the same type of vigorous training that I had done before.
Totally understandable.
Yeah,
Totally understandable. So, are you the youngest, the middle child, or the oldest?
I'm the middle.
Ah,
Yeah.
something about that middle child. Ah, that middle child is special.
We are, aren't we?
Yeah. So the middle child is a I'm gonna outshine you one way or the other. Either I'm gonna be the extreme bad child,
Mhm.
or I'm going to be the extreme good child where my accolades got to outshine everything that you do. Now, so, and just hearing your story, I'm pretty sure you're the brightest bulb. I ain't saying your siblings ain't shining, but
My siblings are pretty sharp, and they're all gifted in their own way.
uh-huh.
My immediate family and my extended family, or even the family that you make your family. All of them. Yeah, everyone's very gifted.
Are they, I mean, like, you ride. Like I mean, and I know you got to give them their props.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest of three, and so I get it. I
Mhm.
understand the middle child. I understand the older child, and you got to give them their props because they are doing their thing. But
Yeah.
you are spinning plates like crazy. Do
Yeah.
y'all have a good relationship?
That is an interesting question. Yes and no. Here's why. And this is one of the first, I'll say, traumas I experienced in life. was with my siblings. When I was born, I had an older sister of 6. She was 6 years older than me,
Mhm.
and she wanted to stay an only child. So I was born into friction, to say in the least. There was a lot of resistance, for
Right.
creating that bond. So it wasn't until I was 24 that my sister and I actually started having a relationship. She did not speak to me if she didn't have to. She did not acknowledge me. Her friends didn't even know she had a sister until I
Right.
was 24. And then all of a sudden, I guess became of age, and we started to have a relationship. We are much better now. In fact, there have been times where we talked and haven't talked for 2 days even. We're like, oh my God, where have you been? But there were months and years where we're like, we really wouldn't communicate and it didn't mean anything before. That's not the case now. And then my younger sibling, it's almost the opposite. We were much closer when I was born. He's 4 years younger than me, um, and then he went through some mental health things and decided to completely go into essentially isolation from the family, and so he doesn't talk to almost any of us. Um, we have ways to check on him, so I actually know he's okay, uh,
Okay.
but I don't speak to him directly. Yeah.
That is tough, because one, the age, especially with your older sister, you talk about 6 years. So she was already, by the time you turned 6, she was already in middle school.
Yeah.
So she could move a little different. And when by the time you turned 12, she was already going to college. So to be able to have that distance and not even acknowledge you is great. Now, what kind of internal things did that create with you? You saying, "Hey, I want to have a relationship with my sister," and then your first set of rejection comes from somebody that's inside your circle.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it drastically shifted my perception on how relationships were supposed to function. So I entered into this season of most of my life where I honestly didn't know what a loving relationship was. I was super close to my dad. He was like my best friend. So I did learn from that. But of course, you see other siblings and they have this bond. And even like my neighbors, I would see them interacting with their siblings. And I'm like, okay. I was striving. So I entered into this season where I was always striving for her attention. I was always doing everything in my power. Like I would do her homework for her. I would do everything to win her graces and to win like her acceptance. And that's what I thought relationships were like.
Uh-huh.
I'm always giving, always doing, I'm always doing. So it turned me into a very giving, very loving person by default because I dished out everything that I was looking to receive, and that became my baseline.
Yeah.
My baseline. Yeah, but it did make it very confusing. I went to a lot of therapy to set boundaries, to learn how to properly communicate with people, because I was used to communicating and not being communicated with back. And so I had to learn all of those things.
That is yeah. And it can cause you to move different
Mhm.
and enter into a relationship where the abuse is, I'm giving it to you, and
Yeah.
nobody's going to say no. So your boundaries always move. They know they can always ask Jazz because she's always going to say yes.
Yep.
And I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Um, so you say, so are you cool? You had a great relationship with your dad, and did you have a good relationship with your mom?
I would say we had a good relationship. It wasn't as open, as the relationship I had with my dad.
Hmm.
So funny story, this might be TMI, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. When I was in middle school, and I came into womanhood, most girls would call their mom. I called my dad. I was comfortable telling him. I was like, "What's happening?" And he's like, "Okay." He knew I went to a private school, so they had everything set up kind of in the bathrooms and everything already. And he goes, "Just go into the restroom. They have everything you need. If you need to change your clothes, like go tell the teacher." He walked me through it and it was fine. But my mom and I connected on a academic level. So when I was growing up, I always felt like my mom was very quiet, and so our we didn't have matching personalities. And that's why I was much closer to my dad. My dad's personality is very vibrant. He's very social. He's a social butterfly of the family. I captured that directly from him. My mom has blossomed in the last probably 5 to 10 years. She's become much more social. She travels a lot now. She even was in a TV show. She was in one of the scenes in Homeland. So she's getting out there. So now we have a lot more to connect on, and our relationship has continued to blossom. But as I was growing up, I just remember my mom being really quiet. She was always very loving, never had any problems with her. I just felt more connected to my dad. Yeah.
That's a that's an interesting dynamic when you start putting the pieces together, because you're the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're trying to develop a relationship with your older sister, and then your mom is really quiet, but then you have this brother that comes along, and now you're kind of like, where do I fit in this piece? Me and my dad is really, really cool. And
Mm-hmm.
as a young person, that is hard to kind of put these pieces together, especially when you're basing how you are being handled or the things you're doing off your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
And but you made it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You made it. So what year did you transition you went to private school in high school as well? Like, so,
I went to public school for high school.
okay.
And then I went
Okay.
to a private university for college, grad school. I think both my grad programs were private, I believe, and then a public university for med school.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You keep saying med school. You got a PhD? I'm like,
It's just another school program.
are you a doctor as well?
I'm not. That's a funny story too. Just full of funny stories. I went to medical school. I was on a full ride. Yep, I was on a full ride to medical
That
school.
is awesome.
Thank you. And I was in my third year. I was doing relatively well. I've historically not been a great test taker. When I do test really well, it's because I just unequivocally knew everything. Like, I went in 100% confidence and I couldn't be shaken or stirred, when the exam started. Often that was not the case. And even if I knew something, I would still talk myself out of the right answers. And that's what would happen. And so I missed my board exam by 8 points. I think I needed a 380 and I got a 372. And the dean of the program, there was an interim dean at the time, a stand-in dean. She told me that I was not allowed to retake the board exam. And that was not true. I could have appealed that decision and I could have retaken it and continued my medical career. However, thinking that I was being given the right information, I took that information and I took the follow-up that came with it saying, "Oh, you would have made a lovely doctor." I was like, "Thanks, but no thanks." And you can voluntarily withdraw or you can be involuntarily dismissed. And I knew if I was dismissed from the program, I would never be able to get back into medical school. And so I decided the best option, right, with the information that I had at the time, was to voluntarily withdraw. And that's what I did. And it wasn't until I was talking with the administration at Meharry Medical College, and they told me that I could have transferred to another university. I could have continued. I could have studied again, retaken the board exam, and continued my medical career. Unfortunately, because I had officially withdrawn from the school, a transfer was not allowed. And so I could still go back. I would have to essentially go through a route of like extenuating circumstances to continue back during third year, or I would just have to start from the beginning. Either way, like, they're both good options. Should I decide to go back, I have considered going back to get my naturopathic doctorate instead of my allopathic doctorate degree. But I'm in a different phase of life right now, so I'm not 100% sure when the right time would be for me to even do that.
Well, you look fairly young. So I hear all the time you should never ask anybody their age. So I'm guessing you're close to 30.
It's a nice guess.
You know, 30-ish, 28, 29, 30, somewhere in there. But
Uh-huh.
okay, so you went to college.
I
Now
did.
let's kind of go back. So it sounds like you had a fairly stable childhood.
Yes. Yes.
Everything, two parents,
Mm-hmm.
a
Two
good
grandpa.
example, and outside of the sibling thing, seemed like everything. Now, how was your relationships growing up? Like, your dating relationships, did any of those pieces that you experienced um move you into dating a certain kind of way when you got, especially more so in high school, because nobody counts in junior high, but more so in
Right.
high school and college?
Yeah. Um, that's interesting. I don't know if it really led me to date a certain type of way. I think I just would meet someone and decide whether or not I liked them, and that's kind of how I function. I didn't really have any limitations, I guess, or, like, restricted thinking in that regard. Like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I only want someone who's like this or someone who's like that." I didn't really function like that at least not in high school. Um, I didn't I've always been very picky, so I've never just, like, dated anyone. I had one boyfriend in high school, obviously didn't work out. Uh, I was molested once in high school, and I wouldn't even say that deterred me from dating, it just made me way more cautious about my actions around people, so that I wouldn't set myself up for failure, and I never even told anyone about that until college when I pledged in a sorority, and it was my sorority sisters who they were the first ones to tell me, "Jazz, it's not your fault." And I was like, "Well, like, I shouldn't have been hanging out with him alone." I had all these reasons why it was my fault that I had put myself in that situation, and they were like, it's not your fault. Like, if that was not what you wanted and you expressed that, it's not your fault." And that was very eye-opening for me because the entire time I had failed to tell anyone because I thought it was my fault.
Yeah.
And, I realized that is the case with a lot of women. It happens way more often than it should because this should never happen. And it definitely made me more aware, of who people are, how they functioned. But I would say most of my confidence in dating came from my dad because again, I had a very loving relationship with my dad. I expected to be loved and treated like a daddy's girl. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like
Uh-huh.
you should care for me and protect me, and in exchange, I will care for you and I will love you the same way I did my dad. Like I would bake him his favorite pies because he's my dad, right? I'm like I had learned how to cook certain things because I always wanted to make him happy. And that is how I started to function in relationships. I do things to make you happy to the best of my knowledge, and in exchange, like, you treat me with love and kindness. Unfortunately, not all people work that way. In college, I had a college sweetheart. He was amazing. He's actually practically a world-renowned radiation oncologist right now. I'm very proud of him. He was just featured in a magazine with his dad. He's a great guy. We dated for half of college, and then he went to med school because he was older than me, and I continued school. Um, and then I think I dated one other guy in college. It wasn't that serious, but we've remained friends. So I've been very picky. I haven't dated a lot of people, so when I do seriously date someone, it's like a big deal. I'm like, "Oh, my boyfriend. Ooh." So yeah, I would say my attention is easy to catch, but it's hard to keep.
For sure.
Yeah,
I
and
can.
that's what it is. So was in therapy a couple of years ago, and I have graduated. They were like, your scores are not bad enough for a therapist." And I'm like, I could botch the test. Like I like having a therapist. I like being able to learn and, identify areas of improvement and work on that. And um I was in intensive therapy because I was in a pretty abusive situation a couple of years ago, and I started all over again. Like everything, started my health, my finances, my businesses, my career, everything. I started everything from scratch because I essentially was forced to. But it was out of that relationship that I really started to identify my own self-worth and realize I'm not amazing because of the things that I do. I'm amazing because of the person that I am.
Right.
And I started to look for that in other people and identify, okay, I might want to get to know you more from what I know so far, but I need to collect more data on you. And it taught me to move through relationships like that. But I was dating one guy pretty seriously. He was pursuing me to be a wife. And I told my therapist, I said, this isn't gonna work. And she was like, why, Jazz? Why? I said, he's boring.
He's
He's boring. I said, I can't sign up for a life of boredom. This man can't cook. I said, he's got all these goals, but he's not gaining any momentum. He's not gaining any traction. He just has these plans, but he wants me to put my plans on hold as, to like sync them up with his plans. I said, no. Like, we can celebrate my accomplishments separate, like from your accomplishments.
right.
To be more specific, I wanted to go skydiving. Oh, that's great. Why don't we go when I get accepted into med school? I was like, you haven't even taken the test yet. Why am I gonna what? I got 2 years to go skydiving? Like, what? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And I realized, not only that, but our perspective of God also was very different. Like, we were both very strong Christians. I love God. God is my Lord and Savior. I believe in Jesus Christ. But I remember going through like the premarital questions with him and saying, okay, what would you do, like if our family was held at gunpoint? And he took more of the like, we're going to pray the gun away. I'm like, I'm pretty sure even Jesus was like, or God told David to kill Goliath, with the slingshot. I said, he's not a passive God, right? He does want you to take action, but it doesn't mean you walk down the street and you shoot somebody. It means like protect your family, you protect your own, right? You protect God's children. And that does not always mean to do that in a passive or nonviolent manner. Sometimes you have to fight. I mean, God parted the Red Sea and then drowned thousands of people. Like,
yeah,
you can't act like he didn't pray them away.
Hey, Peter pulled the sword first. Peter was like, hey, we fight first, then we ask questions later.
Precisely. And I said, there are times where that is necessary. And I need to know that as my husband, right? As my husband, you are going to put your life on the line for your family, because I would do the same for you. I would, this is till death do we part, right? Not till we pray everything away till we part. Like, and it was just something I couldn't get on board with. And so I said, I need someone where I feel the world is not getting less crazy, more crazy. And I need to know that you legitimately have my back, like in the military. I'm also in the Air Force. You do have my 6. If you don't have my 6, I can't be with you because we're not a team.
100%. I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
And so I pastor a church, and every once in a while the thug comes out. Sometimes I got to turn him down, but he's still there. Mm-hmm. He fights if he has to. Mm-hmm. But you said a couple of things that stood out to me, and I just want to kind of just circle back on a couple of things. Sure. How important do you believe, or how important was it that, you and your dad's relationship, that he was an example of a loving man? How did that play out as you went in your journey? Actually, let me tell you what I heard. That because of that relationship, he set a bar. He set a standard. And in setting that standard, when you came across another gentleman, it was like, you got to be at least where my dad is in handling me and respecting me and caring for me and doing all and nurturing me. Yeah. And once you do that, then I'm open to being submitted to you because you will remind me of my father. That's very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I deal with a lot of young people and a lot of uh, young ladies who don't have that peace.
Right.
And so they go out seeking that peace,
Hmm.
and going out and seeking that peace, meaning that any guy that comes up to you that looks like he is able to fulfill that void,
Hmm.
you then give yourself over to that. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um, I think that you have a that relationship kind of set the standard for you, and is really awesome that you hold fast to your core
Hmm.
and not let the emotions or of being in love the idea of being in love with love
Hmm.
override your belief system. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
pretty good. So then you say you end up in a very abusive relationship.
Yeah, that was.
How did that? So he must have had some qualities that reminded you of your dad, because in that in you setting that baseline and that boundary, it must have been somebody that you were able to submit yourself to
Mhm.
and gave access to. How
Yeah.
what happened?
So, this is actually one of the most amazing pivot points of my life. And I'm able to say that now because I've gone through intensive therapy and also months and months and months of therapy once a week, twice a week, um, until I graduated. And the reason I say that is because the only reason I got into that relationship was because we were best friends for 15 years. So he was someone I trusted with everything. My whole life, he knew everything that had ever happened to me. I was an open book, as open, transparent, loving, loyal to him. And in the beginning, it was the same. It was very mutual. We loved and respected each other. We cared for each other. We referred to each other as king and queen. His friends knew me. His family knew me. I'm actually still in touch with his uncle. He will call and check on me and say, "Hey, I just you were on my mind. I just wanted to see if you're doing okay." So those relationships have maintained. I keep all interactions with him to a minimal, and usually it's just something if like maybe he accidentally gets a piece of my mail because we were very intertwined in our lives. We shared a bank account. We lived together. I thought we were going to get married. Then he asked me to move in with him. I remember the call. I was living in Texas. He calls me up. He's like, "Hey, Jazz, you've been my best friend for years. You have always been loyal to me. You have always taken care of me. You've always loved me." He's like, "I love you. Do you want to come move in with me? And I have this business idea. I want you to help me start this business." And so I did. Uh, I moved. I stopped working. I was working as an insurance agent and also working part time for the hospital. I kept my part time job because my godfather slash mentor actually owns the company and I support him. Plus, it's my shoe in to the medical field because he knows I have the experience and I work for the company. I do medical writing and so on and so forth. But I moved in with him, and the first year it was good. We were building the company, getting things in order. We started business officially, and within 12 months, we had made like $120,000. He gave me $600 and told me to leave. So, um, and that's and I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version mostly because it's not necessary, to go through all of the qualms that we went through. But it
For
got to
sure.
a point where I was so stressed out. I wasn't able to eat, and when I had time to eat, I was essentially being chastised, like, "Oh, you have time to take a break." Like I'm literally starving to death. I was 40 pounds less than what I am now. And you can tell I'm not a big girl. I was like 109 pounds. I had an ulcer. He wouldn't make the time to even take me to go get an endoscopy because you have to have a designated driver to come back. And remember, I moved to his city, so like all of my friends were new. Everyone I knew was new. It's not like I knew a lot of people. Here is before I continue that, I will say here's the lesson that I learned from those moments where I really needed help. I had help, but I had been so isolated in the relationship. Like he'd convinced me that like my friends were bad or they were doing this or that, and I had been isolated, and so I was so overwhelmed and stressed out. I didn't even think of people that I could call. Like I literally could not think of anyone. I just felt alone, and I realized after the fact, after I'm telling my friends, and they're like, "Oh my god, girl, you could have stayed with me. Like, you could have lived with me. Like, it would have been fine. I would have come and pick you up." And I'm like, the thought never crossed my mind to call you. Like, I was just so overwhelmed. Like, I was in the thick of it, trying to survive and also trying to make it better, right?
Right.
I still be loyal to the relationship because again, we had 15 years of good. We had a year and a half of bad, or really 16 years of good, a year and a half of bad. In my mind, I'm like, this isn't adding up. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. You know, I'm thinking this can't be the same person that I have loved for 16 years. How do people change like that? I just couldn't fathom that shift in a person's personality. But he turned into a malignant narcissist. And it was
Wow.
not just the narcissism that was bad. It was he was being egged on by his mom. She was making it very complicated for me. You know, like we were trying to build our relationship and she wasn't even really allowing us to do that. I continued to be hopeful through the majority of that because I even overheard him telling his boss one day, he goes, "Yeah, you know, I'm here and we're such and such and such, my fiance." And I'm like, "Oh, he's about to propose?" Like I'm getting all right. No, I got the opposite of a proposal. He literally told me to leave in the middle of winter. So I rented a van because we had a car rental company. So I rented a van from one of our partners who gave it to me at a great deal. She was like, "Oh, this van's actually out of commission. It's not in my fleet right now." So she gave it to me for super cheap. And I lived in it with my dog for like, I don't know, a couple weeks. And then I realized like, okay, it's 11 degrees. I can't keep sleeping in a car with candles. This is cool and all, but now I've done it. Let's not do it anymore. So
Right.
I called the grandparents of a student I taught 5 years prior that I had a really great relationship with. I taught their granddaughter. I had homeschooled her. And I remember her telling me, "You can come and visit anytime. I just need 3 hours to get a room ready for you." And I was 4 hours away. So I called her out on it. I said, "Hey, her name is Gaga." I said, "Gaga, can I come stay, you know, for like a month or two?" I said, "I just need to get back on my feet. You know, things are not going as planned. Life is lifing." And she goes, "Do you want to talk about it?" I said, "Nope." I emotionally was so unstable. I could not get through the day. Like my GI system was out of whack. I couldn't keep food down. I was losing my appetite was out of flux. I was just very, very stressed out. And I had a lot of triggers, you know, literally recalling on repeat things that he had said to me about how I wasn't valuable, how I did nothing of value. I didn't add any worth, you know, to what he had going on. I'm like, I literally run half this company. I speak to every customer service person. Every single one. I run customer. My face is the face of the company. Like I was like, actually, the LLC is in my name. What? I opened the bank accounts. What do you mean I had no value? You came up with the idea, but I helped you establish it. You know, right? They say behind every great man is a strong woman. That is in fact true, except for here, his mother tried to boot me and be that person instead. And so that's where we had a lot of problems. And so I realize now when I talk to people who are in abusive or narcissistic relationships, I was the perfect target. You know, I loved him. I was loyal. I had the skills. I had the people skills. I'm a social butterfly when I need to be. You know, I'm easy on the eyes. You know, I had all of these things that could help him build this company. And so I put my life on hold thinking we're a team. We built this and then we use our capital, right? We use our profit and revenue to then fund what I want to do. And then we have 2 businesses, right? 4 businesses, 8 businesses. We continue to multiply that. But he wasn't really a team. Like he was just using me. And I realized that afterwards, now I've set that boundary. Like if it's not a push and a pull in a relationship, if we're not communicative, this isn't going to work. And that is a very strong boundary that I have now. But I think the best thing I learned from that was I am so powerful. Like not only did our surviving get through all of that, and of course, you know, I'm leaving out some of the more aggressive details, but I realized I would have never been manipulated in the first place if I didn't have the skills and the power to be manipulated, right? That somebody else wanted. And then if I could do this for you, if I could help you build a $120,000 company, I could build my own $120,000 company over and over and over.
True. True.
So, that's what I took from it. But um yeah, that my perspective on relationships does stem a lot from my dad. And I did trust him, because he seemed safe. He seemed safe. It seemed like he had family structure, but of course, you don't know the evils of the realm, right, until you're really in it.
For sure.
So there were a lot of things and that also leads me to another thing. People say, "Oh, people do bad things when they have money." I'm like, "No, they don't." That is a misconception of the Bible, where, oh, money is the root of all evil. No, evil is the root of all evil. And money
Right.
exacerbates whatever that is. So
For
if
sure.
you're evil, you could pretend to be good until you have the money and the power. And then your true colors are going to show. And that's, I believe that's what happened. I was fooled for 15 years, and from my perspective, I did everything out of love, and I would have done the same thing. If it happened again, I would probably have done the same thing. I would recognize the sign sooner, and I wouldn't tolerate it. Being called out of my name, or being told I wasn't valuable, or being yelled at, or things behind the scenes, and then pretending like that wasn't happening. We had a debate one day. I remember it dropped off 2 cars to get washed, and he said, "All right, I'm gonna go do this," and I said, "Okay, bye, I love you." And he goes, "Don't you know we're beefing right now?" And I'm like, "What?" I'm sorry. I believe in you never leave your partner angry. I don't care what we're arguing about. If you're about to leave and get in the car, you could get in a car accident in 10 minutes. I have no idea what's going to happen to you. If I love you, it doesn't matter if we have an argument. It doesn't.
Right.
I'm still going to tell you I love you, even if I'm mad at you. I'm still, because my anger does not remove my love. It's just there. It's just present. It's temporary.
Right.
My love isn't conditional. Therefore, I love you regardless of what, my temperament is. And that was something that we just could never agree on. And the communication was, just got worse and worse and worse until it was done.
Well, and I mean, I mean, I can fill in the gaps because it's the same. It's the same. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that personality trait and that behavior and the situations that a person like that creates is
Yeah.
all the same.
Yeah.
And but you made it out of it, and it made
Hmm.
you tougher. It gave you
Yeah.
really what it did was give you lifelines into all the other women and men who
Mhm.
are going through these relationships, who
Yeah.
are who you now you have a lifeline to be able to say, I've experienced that. I know what to look for. I can
Hmm.
tell you what to look for. And now let me tell you how to move out of that. And side note, is nothing worse than a woman trying to date her son.
Oh my gosh. I know.
That is
Pseudo
that
husband
is
effect
the
is terrible.
worst, and that is the most destructive thing
Hmm.
that could happen in a relationship. And excuse
Yeah.
me. And here's another thing. Um, you're, like I know you would be 100% against being in a relationship like that right now,
Hmm.
but he had already pre-qualified himself.
Right. Exactly.
So the process that he would have to go through had he met you today would be way different
Oh,
because you would have your non-negotiables in there.
uh-huh.
But because he was already cleared and validated with the access code, it was easier for you to do that. But hey, look
Yeah.
at you now, thriving up in this piece. You
Yes.
out here slaying the world. You out here doing big things, and I am just like. So now you move through that. You move through. Oh, you said one thing. So you pledged your sorority. What sorority are you in? Oh, get
Oh,
out of
dang.
here. Oh, you
Yep.
a DST?
I am Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Ooh.
Oh, come on. Uh,
Yep.
my,
And I'm the middle child of my sorority too. I'm the tray. There were 5 in my line. Yep.
look at you.
I'm always in the middle somehow.
So my wife is a DST, and she
Oh,
pledged at Johnson C. Smith in Charlotte. Um,
okay.
I think she was class of 90. I think she crossed in 93. Yeah, we
Old
old.
school.
I'm 50. I'll be 51 in August. So,
Wow.
well, look at you.
That is
Go
amazing.
ahead out
Yes.
here.
Another
And
sister.
she did. Look at you. Okay, okay.
Oh
But
yeah.
I ain't gonna trip though. I'm gonna be completely honest. I thought you was gonna say something like Phi Kappa Theta or something like that. Did, I'm just putting the pieces together. Like, and this is a total generalization, a stereotype. I was like, she went to private school, then she went to private college. Yeah, she probably yeah. So but
But it
you
might have
out
been
here in the
it's because I
illustrious.
got full rides. Like private
Hey,
college, I was on a full ride. Med school, I was on a full ride. My first graduate program I paid for. My second one, I was on a partial scholarship.
that's pretty dope. That's
Yeah.
pretty dope. So let's talk about okay, so now we done transitioned, you out of the relationships and everything. How did you get into how did you get into designing? How did you get into acting? How did you get into be see, I looked at your thing, you're a voice actor too. Can you say something to me real quick like you from London?
Oh, of
I just
course. I can do London all day long. It's actually one of my favorite accents to do. I get a lot of readings for like corporate systems, voicemail systems, just reading tasks. I can do this. London is a bit different from the British accent as well. So this is really more of a British accent. But London would be like, "Hey, brev," it's a bit different, isn't it? Like it's more casual, and that's more London. So yeah.
I said I'm gonna ask her to say something, and I see that you also can do you do African a couple of dialect, a couple of accents in African.
Oh, my students love this one. So I taught overseas last year, and my second and fourth graders, sometimes just for fun, I think they did it to torture me a little bit, in the best ways possible. They would refuse to do their work unless I would read to them in an African accent. So I would go, "Why do you want me to do this? I just want you to do your work. I want you to do your work, to be quiet, sit in your seats, and then we can go to the park and we can go play. But you must do your work first."
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh,
So I love, again, my platform is communication, right? So I'm a linguist, I'm a voice artist, I'm an actress, I'm a teacher, I communicate with the military. All of these things, communication, I believe, is what literally runs the world. It's not money, it's not power, it's communication. Because without communication, those things really don't even matter. If you have money and you can't communicate how to spend it, right, it
right,
doesn't matter. Your
right.
relationships, both professional and personal, like romantic, platonic, every relationship is stemmed off of communication. I have a service dog. He's amazing. He's a half Rhodesian Ridgeback, half German Shepherd, and he understands sign language. He understands commands in English, Italian, a little bit of Russian. He knows baño in Spanish. He knows his walking commands are in French. We can communicate from body language. Like I can look at him and he like knows what to do. Apparently I have very strong body language, says my mom. And but he understands. He also knows mommy works from home. So when I say mommy, because he is my child. Until I have real children, he's my child. He knows I work from home, so he won't bark if he's in the room while I'm working on my laptop,
That's
unless he
awesome.
sneaks up on us. That's the only time he'll bark. So he just knows, like we communicate very, very well. And I think that's another reason why I love working with children, because a lot of times parents will bring me in because they're not sure how to communicate with their child. And it's just, honestly, I'm going to just say it's a gift from God,
For
but
sure.
something I'm working on duplicating into a system so that other people can use this skill set. I'm working on partnering with AI companies and academic institutions, so that we can create curricula and environments that improve communication and allow for increased retention of learning, of just interactions of everything in life. And for me, communication is super, super important. I know that's one of the reasons why I was so close with my dad. We had great communication and we had a great understanding of each other. I knew, like, if I got in a fight at school, which did not happen very often, by the way,
Right.
but when I got in a fight at school, I already knew, like, or if I got called to the principal's office, my dad better not hear from him. I already knew. Can I go to the bathroom? I went straight to a payphone. Hey, Dad, you're going to get a call from the principal's office. I got to go. Bye. you know? And he knew, because he also knew I was a good kid. Like, if I did something, it was because it was the right thing to do, or it's because I had to.
Right.
Right. And he knew that. And that was our understanding because we had communicated that. I knew the rules, I knew the system, and that worked for us. And I have used that to get myself into different spaces because there are things that where your skills can take you. Sometimes your character can't keep you and vice versa. But if you can communicate, you can start to bridge that gap. That's what I honestly believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am a communicator,
As you
and
are.
I know how to get in rooms, stay in rooms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. So are you ASL certified as well?
No,
Okay.
I'm not. I
Okay.
might
I
add
was
that.
gonna say, man, I was gonna say you so how many languages do you speak fluently?
I would say 4
Okay.
fluently, and then I dabble in like 5 to 7. As far as, I can introduce myself, I can do formal greetings, but I wouldn't be able to have a conversation and like describe my day.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty like that's all right.
Thank you.
Jazz out here doing big things with in this communication world. And so you design,
Mhm.
you design. So how did you become a designer? What prompted you to design?
Well, I have always been creative. Like, I have paintings that I made from elementary school that I'm honestly, sometimes I see them, I'm like, "How did I make this?" Like, I don't even think I could paint this now. I don't know how I painted it then. So I've always had that creative bug that I get from both my parents. My dad's like the inventor, my mom is artsy. And so I genetically, I guess I just gave it all that was like an amplified gene for them. My siblings are also the same. Like my brother plays many instruments. I also play instruments. My sister's a barber. Like she's amazing barber. Which is very artsy. She also paints and she does other designs as well. Um, yeah, so I got into that space, originally from them, and then I wanted to learn more. So I wanted to take, um, like a chill class in college. So I took an art class, and I got lucky because that semester we had like a standing in professor, an adjunct. We had an adjunct professor who was a real artist. Like that was his full time job. He painted pictures that looked like photographs. And I was just amazed. I'm like, "Okay, I can't do that, but I could go learn some skills, like, this is cool." So I learned how to do oil painting that year, and fortunately, when I went to grad school, my first grad program, my roommate, she was bless her soul, she was lovely, um, but she kinda stressed me out a little bit, and so, uh, I would go and I would paint on the balcony. And I and it was my peaceful time because she had a little dog, and I would always say, "Oh, your dog can't be out here because, the paint and the fumes, I don't want him to get, sick." That was my excuse. But really, I just needed alone time, and that was a way for me to de-stress, and so I started using the arts as a way to de-stress, working out, painting, sports, music. When I was in my worst relationship, but most enlightening relationship, I started to produce music. So I started to produce music. I started to design shoes. I started to paint again. I started to do all of these things because I needed an outlet so that I could survive. Like my brain needed to do something so that all day I wasn't dwelling on the fact that I was in this situation that I really honestly didn't know how to get out of. Because I went through kind of a string of not so great relationships. And I realized, probably looking back at it, it's I just had so much happening, and my dad was gone, and I had just left med school, so I was kind of falling apart, you know what I mean?
Mhm. Uh-huh.
Mentally, just psychologically, I was falling apart because I lost my identity. For 16 years, I pursued medicine, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, "I'm not a doctor, oh my god, what do I do?" Right? And, I didn't know what I could do other than languages or military. I had been out of training for sports. I got heavily involved in the church and I became a youth worship leader, and that was amazing. And
Get out of here.
I was surprised when my pastor asked me to do that. Yeah.
You so I'm gonna say some stuff. I kind of researched you, right? I said I listened to some of your beats. I said I gotta ask her. Okay, she's a designer, so she got some dope shoes out there.
Yep.
Probably got some dope clothes out there.
Coming
I'm
soon.
listening to those beats. I'm like, she make beats too? I
Hmm.
said, oh, and you sing?
I do.
Oh man. Uh,
I don't sing much anymore. I will sing with the church, and I used to sing in a neo soul band, but it started to conflict with my track schedule, so I stopped doing that. Um, but I loved singing with the church. I was part of the adult worship team and then the youth worship leader. And even after I left, because remember I told you I left, so I left California, went to Texas to do some work, and then relocated to the East Coast when I got into the relationship. But while I was in Texas for those few months, I would actually use my bathroom because it had great acoustics, and I would have my guitar and I would have instrumentals on the computer. I'm not a strong guitarist, so don't get excited. I know like 4 chords, just enough for me to be happy. Um, I would record full songs for the youth ministry. And then I would send them over to the church so that the kids could sing along with them during their Wednesday worship sessions. Because I just enjoyed being a part of that system, part of that family. And I love music. Music is something that literally transports you to another place. It is what can make you more angry or more sad or more happy or more in love. I remember I used to listen to uh Essence by Kid. It's like a Afrobeat song.
uh-huh.
And I loved that song. I love that song. In fact, it was such a loving song that I told my significant other at the time. I said, this is my song dedication to you. Because it's what reminds me to always function out of this energy, right? To always function out of love. This is my baseline for how I think about you. So when you do things that aren't in line with that, I just try to get it back to baseline. And I remember he shared that song with his mom, who then decided to use it in one of her presentations. And I was like, there we go again. That's crossing the line. That's crossing the line. Like it's like using our wedding song. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
why did you
Right.
do that? That's weird. That's weird. No,
Right.
she just like would do these little things that I'm like, why? Why would you do that? Like, there are a million other songs you could have used, and you chose to use the one song that I specifically shared with him. And of course, some of that leans on him. Why did you share this with your mom? Like, it wasn't for her, it was for us, right?
Right.
But that just speaks to the power of the kind of the hold or relationship that they had. But yeah, so I got into music, and what's interesting is because of that relationship, he's the one who taught me how to use GarageBand. So I wouldn't even produce music if it hadn't been for him. So that was something that we enjoyed together. He was making music one day, and I kept wanting to come in like, this is me on the computer. No, do this. No, do this. No, do this. Right? He was like, do you want to just take? I'm like, no. I just do that though. Right? Eventually, I took over, and I remember, I did my first album. It was pretty quick once I got the hang of it. And I realized I was onto something when his friends would come over and I would be doing a song. And then all of a sudden I got like 3 or 4 dudes and they're like freestyling in the background. I'm like, oh,
Look at
okay,
you.
so it started to get exciting. And I realized I don't have to go looking for music. I can just make whatever I want. And so, when I would be in these moods, or I'd be stressed out, or I would just want to separate myself from the world for a couple of minutes, I'll just get I'll get on my laptop and I'll start making music. I also have an Akai keyboard, so I can actually completely manufacture a song from scratch. But I do like to use sound loops because it's faster and, the ADD kicks in. I'm like,
Yes. Yes.
um,
Yes.
yeah, in fact, when I rescheduled with you, I had the 24 hours of flights because they messed up all the flights. While I was on the plane, I started the intro to 4 new songs, which are going to all be part of my 3rd album called World Vibes.
That is,
Yeah.
you got a release date on that?
No release date, but it will.
Okay.
Unlikely that it would come out this year, mostly because I already have 4 projects that are on my timeline.
So out when you create shoes, you're designing, you dropping beats like Dre, you out here,
Yeah.
you in the medical field, you
Yeah.
are actress, you a voice actress,
Hmm.
you are a teacher, you are a scholar, you are a officer in the Air Force. You know,
I
she
am.
kind of bypassed that. She's like, "Oh yeah, I am in the Air Force." And kind of, but she is an officer, and we appreciate your service. Thank you for your commitment to the country and what you do in that aspect.
Thank you.
Like you have a lot going on, and so like the dude that's going to be the winner of your heart,
Hmm.
woo, that cat gonna have to be special.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That he's gonna have to be special because you are you got some things going on, and
Yeah.
you kind of mentioned it, but and this is from a prior the conversation we had the other day. You
Yeah.
are developing curricula. You out
Yes.
here um, doing things that are trying to help and aid people to be better at what they do.
Hmm.
So you have a lot going on. You
Yeah.
are influencer. You,
Working
you
on it.
you're influencer. You have a you have a TikTok page. Now, I
Yeah.
would normally have I'm gonna put all the stuff up, all your stuff up, but I do have your picture back here
Yeah.
with your stuff on it. But I do have some other stuff that I'm just gonna add in your TikTok, your you have a Apple Music, all that stuff. I'll
Mhm.
add that in.
Oh yeah.
But you are doing some phenomenal stuff, and you like what would you share with somebody that sees where you are and say, "Hey, I desire to be where you are."
Hmm.
What would you share with them?
I would say put yourself somewhere different. Remove yourself from your current environment. Go somewhere completely new where you're nobody, right? And find yourself. Figure out who you are. And if you honestly think that you already know that, then I think the next step after that would be to get a therapist, right? To talk some things through because everyone can learn. That's really a pet peeve of mine when people are like, I don't need a therapist. I'm like, okay. Says most people who need a therapist. Um, and so I say go to someone who is not part of your life. You know, that's why I love my therapist. She's gotten to know me. They have gotten to know me. But when I originally started speaking to them, they had to really fully assess who I was as a person, how that person fit into the path that I'm on to reach my goals. And then we set kind of like a strategy up, right? But some of that strategy had nothing to do with my goals. It had everything to do with my mindset. And I wouldn't have been able to work on that if I hadn't sought the help and the guidance. I think we don't help each other enough. So for someone who wants to get out of where they are now, you have to realize that one, you're not supposed to be doing this alone. Like even in the Bible, God made Eve because Adam would not have been sufficient on earth by himself, right? And
Right.
not because like Adam wasn't strong and capable. Like, yeah, Adam was strong and capable, but then it would have died with Adam because like, okay. Right. You know, we're meant to have companions, we're meant to have support, you're meant to have a teammate, right? A partner. Find out who that person is for you because there is someone, even when you feel like you're at your worst, when you're alone. I would say I've had angels, right, that God has sent me directly. And it's been through the strangest relationships, even sometimes relationships that ended up being very bad. You have to realize everyone's for a season or a reason. And sometimes as human beings, we get attached, right, to the reason. And then we want to let go of the season, not realizing that we're going into a bad season because we didn't get out of the season when we were supposed to get out of it, right? It's like if you were gambling and you're winning, you know you're not supposed to keep going, but you do it anyway, and then you lose all of your money. But
Right.
relationships don't have to be like that if you just really acknowledge it. I think all of the therapy that I've gone through has allowed me to continue making progress because now I'm much more comfortable and confident to have conversations saying, I don't have time for you. this isn't going to work. You don't meet my needs. I told someone that the other day. I said, I gave you a very basic requirement, and that was daily communication. You failed to do that. Therefore, you've lost the chemistry that we had, gone.
Go.
I already told you, this is how I work. You caught my attention, but you didn't keep it because you didn't hit the one requirement that I required. And so once you realize what you require, then you can move and flow a little bit more freely because you're not like holding on to things that you shouldn't be holding on to. For example, I got deported from Sweden. It was a terrible experience, but what I realized then, was that so many more people had my back. I had people calling me. I had I had a manager pay for my hotel room so that I wouldn't sleep in the airport. And I was like, I was just being stubborn. I was like, I'm not paying for a room. I was so mad. I was so mad. They took my dog. They told me I had to euthanize him if I wanted to stay, or I had to book a flight to America. I'm like, but I didn't come from America. I live in Italy. I was like, my apartment is in Italy. My things are in Italy. I have to go to Italy to get my things. Like, I'm supposed to return in 3 weeks. And here I'm getting deported. Oh my God, I was horrified. So nonetheless, the point of that is to say you have a lot more support than you think. And it might not be who you think is supposed to support you. Many times it's not. It's your friend's mom, or it's this random stranger down the street who's going to just buy you breakfast because you look sad and lonely and they want to do something nice for somebody, right? It fills their karma cup for the day.
Right.
Accept the blessings. I think I refused a lot of blessings because I was proud, or because I felt like maybe I was undeserving even. Like, I need to do this myself. Like, I need to earn this, right? And a lot of that probably stemmed from negative self-talk that I got from other people whispering in my ear, not from who I am, because God says I'm worthy and I have to function and I have to live loved. In fact, I'm reading a really good book called Living Loved, called Uninvited, and it's about living loved and walking through life knowing that I don't need to siphon love from people like I did in my childhood, right? Because I am great, I am worthy, I am valuable as I am, flaws and all. Like, I don't have to have every day, doesn't have to be a perfect day. I have days where I'm insecure. I took the kids to the mall the other day, my niece and her friends, and I saw myself in the mirror and I was like, oh my God, I gotta tuck this in. I started to get all self-conscious. Called my guy friend, who is so charming, it's ridiculous. And he called me on video and he goes, shh, I need one moment of adoration. And he'll just look at me and he goes, you're perfect. Like, you're a work of art. And he's very building. And I laughed at the end because I said, babe, I was so self-conscious today. Like, I saw myself in the mirror and I freaked out. And then here I am. I go to a runway casting today and I'm like, I got this. I'm a veteran. You know what I mean? But it was literally yesterday. So those feelings ebb and flow, and without having somewhat of a foundation, right, with your mindset that you have to work on daily, you can't make progress. You can't move out of where you are into better things. My mindset I worked on more than anything. And I did that for a reason. I said, when I have children, I never want to expect something of them that I have not taken the effort to do myself. I can't ask them to go to therapy if I haven't gone to therapy. I can't ask them to study if I haven't taken the time to study. I can't ask them to run a little bit farther, even though they feel like they're going to throw up, if I haven't done it myself. I've puked many times on the side of the track. I do these things. I work on myself. I read books because I want to lead by example. And I already know anything I haven't worked on is going to trickle down into my children, either subconsciously or consciously. And I don't want to put that on them. Everything I do is for my children, my husband, humanity, right? Because if you're not working on yourself, someone else is going to have to deal with it. And that's distracting them from their purpose. And you're not functioning in yours either, right? Because you're not grounded. And so that's what I would say to someone. You have to find some type of grounding. I moved back in with my adopted parents. I told them 1 to 2 months. It's been 2 years. And, but I've also made the most progress in my career in the last 10 months. I was recruited by the UN to work overseas in Italy. That was a fully expensed trip. I didn't, they paid me, they paid for relocation, they pay for everything. I came back here committed to building my acting and modeling career. It's been an incredible year, and I think I have been casted or booked for something almost monthly since I made that commitment. Just got invited as a designer. I was looking to launch my clothing line sometime in 2025, all e-commerce, but now I have a chance for it to be on a runway with newscasters, right?
That's dope.
Watching it. And so there's been, thank you. There have been a lot of shifts that I've been able to make, but it's because I am constantly working on my mindset. I'm constantly working on changing my perspective, constantly working on having positive self-talk. And I realize the more I pour that into other people, the more I can solidify it for myself, because I'm quick to tell someone else, "Oh, you got this. Like, you're going to do it. It's going to be great. Like, just be present, be in this moment. 10 minutes ago doesn't even matter anymore. You're here now." Like, I had a friend today who came up to the casting. She was having a really rough morning. And I hugged her for like a solid 2 minutes, transfer of energy. And at the end of that hug, I whispered to her, I said, "You're good, right? You're good. You're here. Whatever this crazy person told you this morning," she got a bubbles emoji. I said, "You can text them back and say, 'Are you drowning or blowing bubbles? I can get you some bubbles.'" She was so upset. And I said, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're here now. You're about to get recasted for another runway show where you're about to have amazing content that you can then use to promote yourself," because she's starting a film company. I said, "You got this. You just need to keep gaining traction. You need to keep gaining traction no matter what. Even if you're derailed for a week or a month, you just have to figure out how to get back.
Keep moving.
Goals. Keep moving." Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And even with me being kind of scatterbrained, that's what my friends are for. My friends know I have 7 business plans and I'm going to launch all of them and I'm going to be a multi-billionaire, and there's no problem. Like, I got that. I'm going to do it.
I don't doubt that one bit. You in the short period of time that I've been speaking with you, it seems like you're very determined and very driven. And once it's locked into your brain, then you execute until it happens.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing trait to have. And I love your commitment to yourself and to your personal growth and your personal development. That is an amazing thing. Very contagious, very motivating, very inspiring. So you are a phenomenal young lady, and I am grateful that you took time to come and hang out with me. And that last response was just like stellar for anybody that is in any place that they're in to want to crawl and dig out of wherever it is that they're in to keep it moving. You are um you all right with me. That I'm gonna say that
Thank you.
you are solid.
I appreciate it. I do.
And that is like a ball of energy. And I'm just like wow, man.
But
She is.
I would say it has been a hard journey. People see me where I am at now and they're like, "Oh, but she's so talented." I'm like, okay, I can thank God and my parents for the ADHD. Honestly, it's my superpower. A lot of people see it as a weakness, but it's not. People who have ADHD or people who've gone through trauma, abuse, molestation, loss of family members, what you have is experience, right? And out of every experience, something good can come. You just have to figure out what that good is. It took me a while to do that, right? It took me, again, therapists, multiple there, like 14 therapists, to figure out the silver lining to each relationship. And then I realized, and I was grateful. I'm like, it was a terrible experience. I would never wish this on anyone. I would never want anyone's their perspective of themselves, right, to be deteriorated as badly as mine was from those relationships. However, it is because of that I relate to so many people. It's because of that I'm more kind It's because of that I'm looking that I know that I want in a relationship. I don't want that.
Right.
Right? I don't want that. I want someone
Right.
who's going to talk to me and be honest with me and open and communicate with me. I want someone who wants to legitimately build with me. I tell people all the time, if you're in a relationship and you're not communication isn't good, that's the first thing you have to work on. You have to communicate about how you plan to communicate even, right? So if
For sure.
I tell people daily communication. And here's the funny thing. I'll tell people, I don't care if you text me while you're taking a poop. I don't care. I don't know. Just
Right.
text, right? Just text me.
Exactly.
That's all I'm asking. Like you could put it on auto. You could schedule a text that says, "Good morning, love," every morning.
Oh,
I
that's
wouldn't know. I
our
would just be
text
like,
right
dang,
there.
he's on schedule. Right? I give them these blueprints and then they don't follow them. And I said, that's a form of communication or lack thereof. If someone
Right.
can't, communicate back with you or at least tell you that they're incapable of communicating that way, right? Then you're always going to have a problem. And that also includes communicating with yourself. And that goes back to the positive self-talk, and surrounding myself with good people because you're the average of your 5 closest friends. Plus, like Paulo Coelho said, the man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't, they are both right. I can't
Right.
I go around thinking, "Oh, I can't do
Right.
this, I can do this." Yeah, you're right. You probably can't do it. But if I think I can, like I think I can, I know I can have 7 businesses. And I know that I don't have everything I need to get those to execute that, but I know I have everything I need to figure out how to execute them. And for me, that's the difference of where I am now. Before I was so shaken up, I couldn't even fully process some of these things. Um, and I was kind of just going with the flow of other people, but now I realize like I am a flow. You can either catch the wave or you can get off.
For sure. You are definitely a flow and a vibe. 100%.
Yeah. And so, and that's what I love about where I am now because it has been a tough journey. But I was actually at dinner with him 500 and he told me something. Nope, I'm sorry. It was Maddie J CEO. I was at dinner. Well, I had dinner with him 500 too, but it wasn't at that dinner. It was at a different dinner. Maddie J CEO said, like your heartbeat, if it's going like this, you're
You
dead.
did.
Right?
Right.
People expect life to be like smooth and easy. That's not life. Like you're dead if nothing is like people who have not experienced anything. I can't even respect as much because you have less to offer the world,
For
right?
sure.
You're just basic,
For sure.
right? Just basic. You're like a mold. However, when you start to appreciate those ebbs and flows of life, the heartbeat that you have, you can figure out your purpose. You just write it all down. You're like, okay, well, I did this, and maybe it's just for you to be a mom. Maybe it's just for you to be a teacher. Or maybe it's for you to be a mom or to be a teacher. Like you can be so much more than just something or someone. It's all in your perspective.
For sure.
The ebbs and flows of life help you to gain that perspective. So that's why I love it. Like it's been a hard journey. I have many nights where I've cried. I have actually had many nights where I pray to God, like, if you don't have a plan for me, please do not wake me up. Like I'm so tired of this. I don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm not gonna do it because I already know that's gonna send me to the wrong direction. I said, but please don't wake. Like please, I can't do this anymore. Right? I had years of that. Right? Years of depression and anxiety and PTSD. Being triggered, and I had to go. I actually had some memory loss at some point in time. Because I'd been so traumatized in some of these things, my brain, to protect me, blocked it out. And so I tell people it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay not okay. So you have to figure out how can you be okay and what do you need to get there. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Before I got on with you today, I prayed and I said, God, just let me speak the truth without exaggerations and let me speak in such a way that whoever needs to hear a message, they hear exactly what you need to tell them. And before I wouldn't have never even thought to do that. But again, that's because I'm in a completely different phase. Now I know I deserve to be in the room. Now I know I can hold my own. Now I know that I am special. I am worthy. And it's taken years to realize that I am that way without someone else, like without a husband, without children. Do I want them? Of course. I would love to be married with children. Like, I can't wait for the day. I'm gonna cry so much at my wedding because part of me is like I'm in a bridal runway, but I'm like, oh my God, But I can't wait to feed my husband. You know what I mean? To cook for him and to help my children with their projects and to play slumber party and to do all of these things. I love to pour into other people, and again, part of that is because of my traumas. Like, I learned to do that at first, and then I started to appreciate that that was part of who I was. And so you have to really take the time, I think, to go back and to not be stuck where you were stuck, but to see where you were stuck, why you were stuck, notate it so you don't do it again, right? And then to appreciate what happened while you were stuck there. Because you weren't stuck for no reason. You were stuck because you had to learn something,
Right.
or you had
Right.
to gain something somehow, right? I didn't need all my money stolen, but if I
But
hadn't
you
had
get
my
something from it though.
right, I wouldn't have asked for help.
Ooh, see how it's all tied in together. And I'm just gonna say I could just sit here and listen to you talk because you was in the flow, and it's rejuvenating
Mm,
to hear you speak the way that you're speaking, and the saying the things that you had to say. You really just shut this thing down. Like there like you
I
I,
appreciate that.
I
Thank
can
you.
I can appreciate you, and I am hear me from my heart. Like, I am truly honored and blessed that you took time to pull up and hang out with me on my little podcast.
Yes.
You
Thank
dropped so many jewels and so many nuggets, and so it's rich. It's rich with content. It's rich with is rich, and we know God is the God of all of it,
you.
and we don't downplay God, but
Right.
being open and available
Yes.
to allowing God to use you,
Hmm.
and at your capacity, and not be unashamed of anything that you're going to say, and
Yeah.
staying 10 toes down in your relationship with God. That
Yeah.
that is very, very, very refreshing and rejuvenating. And I appreciate you so much. You family now, so hey, um, you are definitely family. Do you have anything else you want to say to the people?
Well, thank you for one. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you trusting and believing in me enough to share me with your audience. And I really honestly hope that I was a true vessel. That was my only goal for today. Obviously, this is a great time to promote all of the things that I'm doing, but just follow me. You know what I mean? I am Jasmine Major on all forms of social media. There are many things that I have yet to do during this lifetime. And I don't know how long I'll be running, this race solo, but you might eventually see me, with children and all of these wonderful things. And I'm hoping that what I said today stands true, that the things that I'm working on in myself, I really am able to pour into them. And I hope that you're able to see that, in the future, to see that transfer of energy, that transfer of knowledge, that transfer of love. Even my goal is that anyone who's watching this, you'll just think more to walk in love, to think more about walking in love, not just with your interactions for other people, but with yourself. And that is something that I work on daily. How can I show myself love today? Right? Because often, especially if you're traumatized, if you're a giver, or anything of the sort, or if you're a nurturer, you give, 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 but you have to have your cup filled too, even
For
if you have
sure.
yourself. Yeah.
For sure. Woo-wee.
So thank you.
She is awesome. Go
Yeah.
follow her at I am Jasmine Majors on all social media platforms. Like her content, buy her book. We didn't even talk about the book, but go buy her book. I will put that up in a slide where you can check her out on Amazon. If she has shoes or design, anything like that, if she pulls up in your area and she's hosting anything, Show up, support, support, support. She is an amazing woman, and I was blessed to have her to chill with me for a few minutes. And with that said, hey, you have been chilling with Seymour Reese Ball. I love you like a play cousin, and I'm out. Peace.